There is an idea I would like you to consider today, and at first it may sound a little uncomfortable. It is simply this: the world does not reward us merely because we work hard. Now, I know that goes against something many of us were taught from childhood. We were told to work hard, keep our heads down, do what is expected, remain dependable, and eventually things would work out. And certainly there is nothing wrong with hard work. Hard work is honorable. Hard work builds character. Hard work is necessary for almost anything worthwhile. But hard work by itself does not guarantee progress. If it did, every exhausted person would be wealthy. Every person working 2 jobs would be financially secure. Every person who arrived early and stayed late would eventually become indispensable. But you and I know this is not always what happens. There are people who have worked hard for 20 or 30 years and still feel as though they are standing in almost the same place. And there are other people who seem to make tremendous progress with less visible struggle. Why? Are they simply luckier? Did someone secretly open a door for them? Were they born under a more fortunate star? Sometimes circumstances certainly play a part. But there is another explanation that is far more useful because it places something back into your hands. The marketplace does not primarily reward effort, it rewards value, and there is an enormous difference between the two. A person can spend 10 hours performing work that thousands of other people can easily perform. Another person might spend 1 hour solving a problem that very few people know how to solve. The first person may have worked 10 times longer, but the second person may have created 100 times more value, and the marketplace notices the difference. This is one of the hardest ideas for people to accept because effort is personal. You know how tired you are, you know how early you woke up, you know how much you sacrificed, you know how many hours you put in. And because we feel our effort so intensely, we naturally expect the world to reward us according to how difficult the effort felt. But the world cannot measure your fatigue. It can only measure what your effort produces for someone else. That changes everything because if your income, your opportunities, and your usefulness are tied to the value you can create, then the question changes. Instead of asking, how can I work harder, we begin asking, how can I become more valuable? That is a much more powerful question. Imagine 2 mechanics. Both are honest. Both arrive at work on time. Both work 8 hours a day. Both have grease on their hands by 5 o'clock. But one can repair the ordinary problems every mechanic in town understands. The other has spent years studying difficult electrical systems, unusual engine problems, and new technology that most mechanics avoid. Now a customer arrives with a problem nobody else has been able to solve. Which mechanic suddenly becomes more valuable? Not necessarily the one who sweats the most, the one who knows what to do. Knowledge has increased the value of the hour. Skill has increased the value of the hour. Experience has increased the value of the hour. Judgment has increased the value of the hour. And this is one of the great secrets of economic life. You do not have to keep adding more hours to your day if you keep increasing the value contained inside your hours. There are only 24 hours available to every one of us. The wealthy person does not receive 30. The successful entrepreneur does not receive 40. The great physician, engineer, teacher, writer, salesperson, carpenter, programmer, or business owner is operating under exactly the same clock you are. So eventually, increasing your hours reaches a limit, but increasing your value does not. That is why 1 hour of one person's time may be worth $15, another person's $50, another person's $500, and another person's several thousand. The clock did not change. The value did. This is why I become concerned when someone tells me, I just need to work harder. Perhaps. But before you add another 10 hours to an already exhausted week, ask a better question. What could you learn that would make the hours you already work worth more? What problem could you become unusually good at solving? What ability could you develop that people genuinely need? What could you do so well that when people encounter that particular problem, your name naturally comes to mind? That is where a person's real security begins. Not with a company, not with a title, not with seniority, not with the condition of the economy, but with what that person has become capable of doing. Jobs can disappear, companies can reorganize, industries can change, technology can replace yesterday's routine, but the person who has trained himself to observe problems, learn quickly, adapt intelligently, and create genuine value carries his security with him. And that is what I want us to explore. Not how to work ourselves into exhaustion, but how to become the kind of person whose work carries greater weight. Because once you understand that distinction, you stop asking the world to reward your effort. You begin increasing the reason the world has to reward you. And that is an entirely different way to live. There is a strange habit in modern life that can keep a person trapped for years. We confuse movement with progress. A man wakes up early. He answers messages. He attends meetings. He rushes from one responsibility to another. He eats quickly. He works late. He goes home tired. And because he is tired, he assumes he must be advancing. But fatigue is not proof of progress. Activity is not proof of progress. A person can run very quickly on a treadmill and remain in the same room. The important question is not, how much did I do today? The important question is, what became better because I was there? That question takes us directly to value. Suppose a young woman works in a company handling customer complaints. For several years she does what she is told. A complaint arrives, she responds. Another arrives, she responds. She is busy every day. Then one afternoon she notices something. Nearly 40% of the complaints come from the same 3 problems. Now she could continue responding to them one at a time for another 5 years. That would certainly keep her busy. Instead, she begins studying the pattern. She speaks with customers. She talks with the product team. She creates a simple system that eliminates one of those problems before it ever reaches the customer. Suddenly, thousands of future complaints disappear. Now ask yourself, when did she become more valuable? Was it when she answered more emails? No. She became more valuable when she stopped merely performing the work and began improving the work. That distinction is available in almost every occupation. The average employee asks, "What do you want me to do?" The valuable employee eventually begins asking, "Why are we doing it this way? What problem are we actually trying to solve? Could this be done better? What keeps going wrong? What does the customer really need?" Those questions are worth money because they lead to improvement, and improvement is one of the purest forms of value. You see, the market has very little interest in how much discomfort you endured while producing a result. It cares enormously about whether the result saves time, solves a problem, increases revenue, reduces risk, creates beauty, improves health, provides convenience, removes confusion, or makes another person's life better. Once you understand that, you begin looking at work differently. You stop seeing yourself simply as someone filling a position. You begin seeing yourself as a problem solver. That identity travels. Titles do not travel very well. Companies give titles, and companies can remove them. But the ability to solve meaningful problems belongs to you. Think of the finest salesperson you have ever met. The poor salesperson thinks his job is to talk. The excellent salesperson understands that his job is to understand. He asks better questions. He notices hesitation. He understands what the customer is actually trying to accomplish. He does not merely push a product. He connects a real need with a useful solution. That is why he becomes valuable. Think about an excellent teacher. She is not valuable simply because she knows the subject. A library knows the subject. She is valuable because she can take something confusing and make another human being understand it. That ability is rare. Think about an excellent manager. He does not simply give orders. He can take 10 different personalities, 10 different strengths, 10 different concerns, and organize them around one useful objective. That ability is valuable. And here is where things become interesting. Most people could dramatically increase their value without changing professions. They do not need to quit tomorrow. They do not need to move across the country. They do not need another impressive title printed beneath their name. They need to become better at seeing what the work is really for. Who benefits from what you do? What do they need? What frustrates them? What costs them time? What costs them money? What causes confusion? What keeps them awake? Solve more of that, and your value rises. There was a time when a person could learn one trade, repeat the same methods for 40 years, and feel relatively secure. Today, the world moves differently. Software changes, machines change, markets change. Artificial intelligence changes the way information is produced and work is organized. Entire categories of routine work can change faster than people expect. Now, some people hear this and become frightened, but I want you to consider another way of looking at it. If tools become more powerful, the person who learns to use those tools wisely becomes more powerful too. Whenever technology removes one kind of work, it creates demand for people who can understand the new environment. The danger is not change itself. The danger is refusing to change while everything around you does. A person who says, "I already know enough," has made a dangerous statement because the world did not agree to stop learning just because he did. Your education cannot end when someone hands you a diploma. That is merely when formal education may end. Your real education continues for as long as you intend to remain useful, and usefulness is the foundation of opportunity. So tonight, when you think about your career or your business, don't ask only how hard you are working. Ask, what am I learning? What am I improving? What am I becoming capable of doing today that I could not do a year ago? Because if that answer keeps growing, your opportunities have a remarkable tendency to grow with it. I want you to imagine two people. They are the same age. They live in the same city. They earn roughly the same amount of money. They have similar responsibilities. Neither has unusual connections. Neither inherited a fortune. Neither possesses some magical advantage unavailable to the other. But each evening after the day's responsibilities have been handled, they make slightly different decisions. The first person comes home and gives every remaining hour to distraction. Again, there is nothing wrong with rest. A person needs rest. But there is a difference between resting and surrendering every unclaimed hour of your life. The second person also rests, but somewhere in the evening he protects 45 minutes, sometimes an hour. During that time he studies. He reads about his industry. He practices a skill. He studies communication. He learns technology. He listens to people who understand things he does not yet understand. He works on a small business idea. He improves his craft. Nothing dramatic happens the first week. Nothing dramatic happens the first month. If you looked at these two people after 30 days, you might not notice much difference at all. And that is precisely why most people quit. Human beings are attracted to dramatic results. We want the transformation we can see immediately. But most worthwhile things do not work that way. A farmer does not dig up the seed every evening because he cannot yet see the crop. He trusts the process occurring beneath the ground. Growth often happens quietly before it becomes visible. After 1 year, the difference between our two people begins to show. One knows a little more, communicates a little better, sees opportunities a little faster, handles difficult problems with slightly greater confidence. Perhaps his income has not changed much yet, but he has changed, and that is more important because income often changes after the person changes. Continue this for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Now the difference can become enormous. To the person who did not witness all those quiet evenings, it may look like luck. They will say, he suddenly became successful. Suddenly? There was nothing sudden about it. They simply did not see the preparation. They saw the tree after it broke through the ground. They did not see the roots. This is one reason comparing your life with someone else's results can be so misleading. You see the promotion. You do not see the preparation. You see the business. You do not see the evenings. You see the confidence. You do not see the years of uncertainty that confidence survived. You see the knowledge. You do not see the thousands of pages. You see the opportunity. You do not see the person becoming ready for it. And there is another important point here. You do not have to become extraordinary overnight. That thought intimidates people unnecessarily. You simply need to become a little more capable than you were yesterday. Learn one useful thing. Practice one important skill. Correct one weakness. Make one improvement. Read 10 pages. Study 30 minutes. Ask one intelligent question. Do this repeatedly, and time becomes your partner. Most people underestimate what steady improvement can produce because they are looking at 1 day at a time. 1 hour doesn't look impressive, but 1 hour power repeated hundreds of times becomes a body of knowledge. A small improvement does not look impressive, but a small improvement repeated for years becomes mastery, and mastery is difficult to compete with. Now let me ask you a question that may be uncomfortable. If someone followed you for the last 12 months and examined only what you did with your free time, what would they conclude you were trying to become? Think about that. Not what you say you want, not what goals you wrote down in January. What does the use of your time suggest you are building? Because our calendars often tell the truth our ambitions avoid. You may say you want financial independence. Fine. What are you learning about money, business, investing, sales, or creating value? You may say you want to become a leader. Fine. What are you learning about people? You may say you want your own business. Fine. What are you learning about customers, marketing, offers, operations, communication? You may say you want a better career. Fine. What valuable capability are you developing that a better career would reward? A goal without corresponding personal development is usually nothing more than a wish. The question is not simply, what do I want? The more useful question is, what kind of person would naturally produce that result, and then begin becoming that person? This is where genuine confidence comes from, not repeating pleasant phrases in the mirror, not pretending you have no fear. Confidence grows from evidence. You said you would study, and you studied. You said you would practice, and you practiced. You encountered a problem you once could not solve, and now you can solve it. You looked at something that frightened you last year and discovered that you have outgrown the version of yourself that feared it. That is confidence, and nobody can give it to you. It must be built, quietly, repeatedly, often while nobody is watching. So do not despise the small hour. Do not underestimate the quiet evening. Do not assume nothing is happening because nobody is applauding. Some of the most important construction in your life will take place before anyone else can see it. Now we arrive at the question people naturally ask. If I want more from life, what exactly should I do? And I want to make the answer very practical. Do not begin by chasing more money. Begin by becoming capable of creating more value. Money is a result, opportunity is a result, recognition is a result. They follow causes, and one of the great frustrations in life comes from chasing results while neglecting the causes that produce them. A person says, I want to earn twice as much. Very good. Then ask, what would justify twice as much? What problems would you need to solve? What responsibility would you need to carry? What knowledge would you need? What results would you need to produce? What kind of judgment would people trust with that level of reward? Now the goal becomes useful, because instead of staring at a number, you have begun describing a person, and you can build a person. Suppose you want to earn $100,000 a year. Do not spend all your time imagining $100,000. Ask what someone in your field who reliably creates $100,000 worth of value knows that you currently do not know. How do they communicate? What problems can they solve? What responsibility can they handle? How do they make decisions? How do they treat people? What do they understand about the business that the average person overlooks? Study those differences, then close them. This principle works far beyond money. If you want a better relationship, become better at listening, patience, honesty, and understanding. If you want leadership, become someone others can trust. If you want greater responsibility, become someone who handles small responsibilities extraordinarily well. If you want opportunity, become prepared for opportunity before it arrives. We often reverse the order. We say, if someone gives me the chance, then I'll show them what I can do. But life frequently says, show me what you can do, and then the chance becomes easier to find. Preparation has a way of attracting situations that unprepared people call luck. Now I want to give you one exercise, not 20. 1. Sometime today, sit down with a piece of paper. At the top, write this question. What one ability, if I became exceptionally good at it, would most increase my value over the next 3 years? Do not rush the answer. Think. Maybe it is selling. Maybe it is public speaking. Maybe it is programming. Maybe it is using artificial intelligence intelligently in your profession. Maybe it is leadership. Maybe it is financial analysis. Maybe it is negotiation. Maybe it is writing. Maybe it is a technical skill particular to your trade. Maybe it is understanding customers. Maybe it is something you have been avoiding precisely because you know it would require serious effort. Choose one, then give it one protected hour. Not someday. Today, 1 hour. Read, practice, study, build, take notes, find someone better than you and study how they think. Tomorrow, give it another hour and then another. You do not have to transform your entire life this week. That is usually how people sabotage themselves. They attempt a revolution on Monday and abandon it by Thursday. I am asking for something quieter. 1 deliberate hour. Repeated. Think what happens when a person does this for a year. 300 hours of deliberate improvement is a serious education. Think what happens in 3 years. Now imagine 5. The version of you standing 5 years from today could possess knowledge, judgment, confidence, connections, and earning ability that seem almost impossible from where you are standing now, but that future person will not arrive by accident. You are building that person today, or you are neglecting that person today. There is very little neutral ground. Time is moving either way. 5 years from now will arrive whether you study or don't study, whether you grow or don't grow, whether you make the decision or postpone it. So you are not deciding whether 5 years will pass. You are deciding who will be standing there when they do. That may be one of the most important decisions a person ever makes. And here is the wonderful thing. Your beginning does not need to be impressive. Perhaps you are 55. Begin. Perhaps you are 65. Begin. Perhaps you made poor decisions for 20 years. Begin. Perhaps your career changed unexpectedly. Begin. Perhaps you are starting again financially. Begin. Perhaps new technology has made you question whether your old skills will still matter. Begin. As long as you can learn, you can increase your value. As long as you can think, you can improve your judgment. As long as you can serve another human being, there is something useful you can become better at doing. Your past may explain your present position. It does not have to dictate your next position. The world will continue changing. Let it. Industries will change. Let them. Technology will advance. Let it. Other people will enter your field. Let them. You do not need the world to remain still in order to succeed. You need to remain capable of growing while it moves. That is a far more durable form of security. So remember what we began with. Hard work matters, but hard work is not the final objective. The objective is useful work, intelligent work, improving work, work performed by a person who is becoming more knowledgeable, more capable, more perceptive, and more valuable with every passing year. Do not simply ask yourself tonight, how hard did I work today? Ask, did I become more useful? Did I learn something? Did I solve something? Did I improve something? Did I become a little more capable than I was yesterday? If you can answer yes, continue. Day after day, month after month, year after year. And eventually something interesting happens. You stop worrying so much about whether the world will give you an opportunity, because you have become the kind of person opportunities are looking for. Choose the skill, protect the hour, begin today, and keep going. Good day.